Have you ever considered that the most comforting, familiar habits of your nightly routine could be quietly escalating your risk of a stroke? It's a chilling thought, isn't it? Especially for those over 60, there's a silent threat lurking in the very moments you believe you're most at ease. Imagine going to bed feeling perfectly fine, no chest pain, no slurred speech, no dizziness to alarm you. You drift off, perhaps in a position you've held for decades, a ritual as ingrained as breathing, but by morning, something has irrevocably changed. You wake up confused, struggling to articulate words, or discover you can't lift an arm. This isn't a nightmare, it's the stark reality of a stroke, silent, sudden, and profoundly life-altering, all stemming from something as deceptively simple as how you sleep. As a brain doctor, I've witnessed this tragedy unfold far too often, and it's not always the usual suspects like smoking, poor diet, or lack of exercise. More frequently, it's linked to common sleeping habits that many seniors, perhaps even you or a loved one, mistakenly believe are safe. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on 9 dangerous sleeping positions and nighttime routines that could be stealthily increasing your vulnerability to stroke, brain bleeds, or dangerous blood pressure spikes, particularly during those quiet early morning hours when your brain is at its most susceptible. This isn't just information, it's a vital warning. If you are over 60 or care deeply for someone who is, this revelation could be a lifeline. Do not look away. Your understanding today could be the key to safeguarding a healthy tomorrow. Let's begin this crucial conversation. The seemingly innocuous habit of sleeping completely flat on your back, with no pillow, arms resting by your sides, often feels utterly harmless, even comforting. For many older adults, this posture is a deeply ingrained custom, perhaps started decades ago to alleviate back pain or simply because it feels more open. However, here's a crucial piece of information that almost no one shares. Sleeping flat without elevating your head can silently and significantly increase your risk of stroke overnight, a danger you might never perceive until it's too late. When your head lies completely level with your heart, it creates a physiological imbalance, especially as we age. The delicate vessels in our neck and brain begin to lose their youthful flexibility, making blood flow less efficient. The veins, which are designed to drain blood from your brain, now have to contend with gravity, working harder to move blood upwards. This uphill battle can cause blood to pool, slow down, and crucially, clot. This risk is amplified in the early morning hours when blood pressure naturally rises. These silently forming blood clots are far from benign. A single small clot lodged in a narrowed vessel can lead to devastating consequences: slurred speech, facial drooping, permanent disability, or even death. Consider the poignant case of Mr. Leonard Whitaker, a 77-year-old retired mechanic from Michigan. A man of remarkable strength and independence, he continued to fix lawnmowers in his garage well into his 70s. Every night, without fail, he lay flat in bed, no pillow, his hands folded on his chest, a habit he had adopted during his Navy days, convinced it promoted deep sleep. One morning, his wife Mary found him semi-conscious, unable to speak, with one side of his face visibly fallen and his right arm immobile. In the emergency room, scans confirmed an ischemic stroke caused by a clot in his left middle cerebral artery. Doctors determined that his stiffened carotid arteries, combined with hours of blood pooling due to his flat sleeping position, had set the stage for the stroke. Though doctors quickly dissolved the clot, Leonard was profoundly changed. His speech became slower, and he now relies on a walker. Mary diligently props him up on a wedge pillow every night, a simple adjustment they both wish they had known about years prior. The medical reality is that lying flat, particularly with age-related vascular changes, compromises venous drainage from the brain. In simpler terms, your brain's intricate plumbing system slows to a crawl, and stagnant blood becomes a fertile breeding ground for clots. This dangerous scenario is exacerbated by natural overnight dehydration and reduced oxygen saturation. This position is particularly hazardous for seniors with hypertension, atrial fibrillation, sleep apnea, a history of carotid artery disease, or those on blood pressure medications that might lower pressure excessively at night. The safest and most immediate adjustment is a slight head elevation of approximately 30 degrees. This gentle incline helps gravity assist blood flow, lowers intracranial pressure, and allows the brain to oxygenate more evenly. Even 1 or 2 supportive pillows can make a significant difference. Crucially, choose a pillow that cradles the natural curve of your neck, avoiding any that force your chin forward. This isn't merely about comfort, it's about optimizing blood flow to the most vital organ in your body, protecting your independence, memory, speech, and mobility, everything that makes you, you. Leonard, with tears in his eyes, once confided, "Doc, if someone had just told me that sleeping flat could do this, I would have changed it years ago." Let his experience be that urgent message for you today. While younger bodies might tolerate this posture with minimal harm, the landscape of our physiology shifts significantly after 60. Circulation slows, arteries gradually harden, and oxygen levels tend to dip more easily, particularly during the crucial stages of deep sleep. When you sleep face down, a cascade of dangerous events can begin. Your neck is forced into a sharp, extreme turn to one side, allowing you to breathe. This unnatural twisting compresses the vertebral arteries, which are essential for transporting oxygen-rich blood from your spine to the posterior regions of your brain, the areas vital for balance, coordination, and maintaining consciousness. Furthermore, this posture can exert pressure on the carotid arteries, especially if your head sinks deeply into a soft pillow or mattress. This combined compression slows blood flow, kinks the veins responsible for draining blood from the brain, and allows stagnant blood to collect, thicken, and in vulnerable individuals, form dangerous blood clots. These clots can remain quiet for hours, waiting for the early morning surge in blood pressure to dislodge them, sending them directly into the brain, often resulting in a massive and sometimes fatal stroke. The story of Mrs. Ethel Lawson, an 82-year-old retired schoolteacher from Ohio, serves as a stark reminder. Her daughter found her one morning lying awkwardly on her stomach, her speech garbled, and her left side unresponsive. Rushed to the hospital, scans revealed a large ischemic stroke affecting her cerebellum, the brain region critical for coordination and balance. Yet, Ethel had no history of high cholesterol or atrial fibrillation. The culprit? Age-related narrowing of her carotid arteries, exacerbated by the hours she spent sleeping face down with her neck severely twisted, which had critically reduced blood flow, allowing a clot to form silently overnight. Ethel survived, but her life was irrevocably altered. She no longer drives and struggles to walk without assistance. She often reflects, "I had no idea something as simple as how I slept could nearly take my life." 3. The concealed threat of sleeping with a heavy blanket over the head. Many seniors share a deeply personal and comforting habit, almost childlike in its innocence, pulling the blanket up over their heads at night. This simple act might be intended to block out the noise of a snoring partner, shield against a drafty room, or dim excessive light. For some, it evokes a childhood sense of peace and security, a warm, silent cocoon against the world. Yet, for older adults, this seemingly benign nighttime ritual can quietly escalate into a deadly risk. When you sleep with a heavy blanket draped over your head, you're doing more than just blocking light or sound. You're significantly restricting airflow. Over the course of the night, the oxygen levels within that confined space steadily decrease, while carbon dioxide, the waste gas we exhale, builds up around your nose and mouth. While your younger self might have tolerated this decades ago, at 60, 70, or 80, your brain simply cannot recover in the same way. Low oxygen and elevated carbon dioxide during sleep are insidious dangers that increase the thickness of your blood, creating conditions ripe for blood clot formation in vulnerable brains. Let me share the story of Mr. Richard Hale, an 81-year-old retired postmaster from Iowa. A quiet, contemplative man, Richard cherished the feeling of sleeping in complete darkness and had pulled the covers over his head since childhood, especially in winter. His wife would gently tease him, calling him her bundled-up caterpillar, but it made him feel safe and deeply relaxed. So every evening, he meticulously tucked himself in, pulling a thick quilt over his head before drifting into sleep. Then, one morning, Richard didn't emerge from bed. His alarmed wife found him groggy and unresponsive, barely able to open his eyes. When paramedics arrived, his blood oxygen levels were dangerously low. At the hospital, a scan confirmed a silent stroke that had occurred in the early morning hours. A clot had formed and lodged in a small vessel deep within his brain, not due to atherosclerosis or atrial fibrillation, but from oxygen deprivation during sleep combined with age-related blood thickening. His restricted airflow under a heavy blanket was identified as a critical contributing factor. During deep sleep, particularly REM cycles, your brain demands a consistent flow of oxygen. When you're under the covers, rebreathing stale air, your oxygen levels plummet. Your heart compensates by beating faster, and your blood pressure begins to fluctuate wildly. These sudden spikes and valleys place immense stress on already fragile vessels. Combine this with mild dehydration, slowed circulation, and age-hardened arteries, and you've created a perfect storm for a clot to form. The truly terrifying aspect is that you might never know it's happening. You fall asleep feeling secure, but your brain is slowly suffocating, and by the time the damage is done, you may wake up a changed person, if you wake up at all. Medical studies have clearly demonstrated a link between even mild hypoxia, reduced oxygen levels during sleep, and a significantly increased risk of stroke and cognitive decline in seniors. This risk isn't exclusive to individuals with diagnosed sleep apnea. It can affect anyone whose breathing is compromised by their environment or sleeping posture. If you habitually sleep with a blanket over your head, even seasonally, it's imperative to reevaluate this routine. Instead of hiding under covers, try using a sleep mask to block light or earplugs for sound. Ensure your room is at a comfortable, warm temperature and invest in breathable, lightweight bedding. This isn't about minor discomfort. It's about providing your brain with the uninterrupted oxygen it needs to repair, restore, and survive the night. Strokes don't discriminate. They can strike thoughtful, good people like Richard, who had no idea that a lifelong habit could nearly steal his ability to walk, talk, and remember. He now sleeps with a wedge pillow, soft lighting, and his blanket folded below his shoulders. He reflected, "I never knew something that felt so safe could be so dangerous." His experience, like so many others, underscores a profound truth. What we don't know can indeed hurt us, especially while we sleep. For the recliner trap, sleeping upright in a chair. As we age, the simple act of sleeping can become a complex challenge. Aches, pains, stiff joints, acid reflux, or shortness of breath often make a traditional bed feel uncomfortable, pushing many older adults toward a seemingly perfect solution, the recliner chair. Perhaps you know someone who has entirely abandoned their bed, or perhaps you are that someone, settling into your recliner night after night. A soft blanket, the faint hum of a television, the chair angled just so. It feels incredibly secure and pain-free. Yet, as a brain doctor, I've observed firsthand how this seemingly safe position, sleeping upright in a reclined chair, can subtly and silently elevate the risk of stroke overnight. The human body is intrinsically designed to rest flat, allowing blood and oxygen to flow evenly and efficiently. However, when you sleep in a semi-upright position, typically at an angle of 45 to 60 degrees, you place your circulatory system at a distinct disadvantage, particularly as you age. In this posture, gravity exerts a dual effect. It pulls blood downward, away from your brain, and simultaneously compresses the major veins in your legs and hips. The consequence is sluggish blood flow that pools in the lower limbs, drastically increasing the likelihood of clot formation. While this might be less hazardous for younger individuals, after the age of 60, the physiological landscape changes. Blood naturally becomes thicker due to age-related dehydration, vessels narrow from decades of wear, and the heart's pumping efficiency diminishes. This slow-moving blood trapped in your lower body can form small, sticky, silent clots that during the night or early morning can dislodge and travel upwards. All it takes is one of these clots lodging in a vessel in your brain, and the damage is done before you even wake. Consider the case of Mrs. Barbara Keene, a spry 79-year-old retired florist from Kentucky, known for her sharp memory and gentle smile. 5 years ago, after hip surgery made lying flat excruciatingly uncomfortable, she began sleeping in her recliner. She told herself it was just until the pain goes away. But the pain lingered, and the recliner gradually became her permanent bed. She would wake up stiff but managed, until one morning her daughter found her confused, still in the chair, barely able to move her left hand. Barbara had felt no warning whatsoever. Scans revealed a lacunar stroke, a small, deep stroke caused by a clot that had lodged in one of the brain's tiny vessels. She had no significant heart condition, no atrial fibrillation. What she did have was compromised circulation from years of sleeping upright. Her legs often swelled, her ankles felt tight, and she frequently felt dizzy upon exiting the chair. The signs were there, but like many, she never imagined her beloved recliner could become a stroke trap. From a medical perspective, sleeping upright impairs the effectiveness of the baroreflex, the body's natural system for regulating blood pressure. During flat sleep, your brain and heart communicate seamlessly to maintain balanced pressure. However, when upright, especially if you're slightly tilted or twisted, this reflex weakens, leading to dangerous blood pressure instability. For seniors, this instability is particularly perilous. When you factor in medications, dehydration, or compression from tight socks or swelling, you're faced with multiple risk factors converging simultaneously, all while you believe you're simply enjoying a comfortable night's rest. If you habitually sleep or nap in a recliner, consider this a critical wake-up call. Sleep is not merely about rest, it's about positioning your body to protect your brain. If elevation is necessary, use a hospital-style adjustable bed or a firm wedge pillow that supports your torso without constricting your lower limbs. Remember to regularly stretch and move your legs to promote healthy circulation. Barbara now sleeps in a bed again, with her head slightly raised and a body pillow for hip support. She often recounts, "I thought I was making things easier for myself. I never thought I was making them more dangerous." Many people assume that excessive movement poses the greatest danger, but for seniors, the risk often lies in remaining still in the wrong position for too long. 5. The deceptive comfort of sleeping on your right side with your arm under your pillow. Among the myriad sleeping positions, there's one that millions, particularly older adults, find profoundly comforting. Lying on your right side, a soft pillow tucked beneath your head, perhaps another cradled between your knees, and instinctively your arm slid underneath. It feels natural, secure, a habit you've maintained for decades, believing it to be the safest way to rest. However, as a brain doctor, I must reveal that this is, in fact, one of the most dangerous sleeping positions I encounter in seniors. Its danger isn't in causing immediate pain, but in its insidious ability to quietly restrict blood flow to your brain night after night, exponentially increasing your stroke risk precisely when you believe you are most protected. Let's delve into why this position is so precarious. When you lie on your right side, especially with your arm wedged beneath your head or pillow, you exert direct and prolonged pressure on major arteries and veins in your neck and shoulder. This includes the critical carotid artery, a primary highway for oxygen-rich blood to your brain, and the subclavian artery. When these vital vessels are compressed for hours, the flow of blood decelerates significantly. Blood pools, veins are squeezed, arteries narrow, and in the quiet stillness of sleep, this stagnant blood begins to thicken, forming dangerous blood clots. These clots may lie dormant for hours until an early morning shift in position or the natural rise in blood pressure dislodges them. In mere seconds, such a clot can travel upwards, starving your brain of precious oxygen. Consider the experience of Mr. Ellis Randall, a fiercely independent 75-year-old Vietnam veteran from North Carolina who jokingly claimed he could still outrun his grandson. Every night, Ellis slept on his right side, just as he had since his military days, curling his arm under his pillow for neck support. One morning, his wife discovered him halfway out of bed, dazed and unable to move his left leg. He was rushed to the ER, where scans confirmed a right hemisphere stroke caused by a clot in his middle cerebral artery. Ellis had none of the typical risk factors: no high cholesterol, no diabetes. He didn't smoke. As we meticulously reviewed his habits, the cause became chillingly clear. Chronic pressure on his right side, combined with years of sleeping on that arm, had compromised his vascular flow. Ultrasound revealed narrowing of his carotid artery, and because he had unknowingly restricted blood flow for hours each night, a clot had silently formed in his sleep, striking just before dawn. Ellis survived, but his mobility is now reduced. He walks with a brace and undergoes weekly therapy. He once confided, "I had no idea the way I slept could betray me." The stark truth is that this position not only impairs arterial flow, but also compresses the brachial plexus, a vital bundle of nerves running through your shoulder and down your arm. When squeezed under your body weight, these nerves don't just go numb. They send distress signals to your brain, subtly interrupting your sleep cycle without your conscious awareness. Over time, this chronic poor circulation and nerve stress contribute to microvascular damage, the kind that silently accumulates until it culminates in a critical event. Older adults are uniquely vulnerable because with age, blood vessels stiffen and narrow, blood becomes more viscous, recovery from restricted flow takes longer, and nerve resilience diminishes. So, if you've been habitually sleeping on your right side, especially with your arm underneath, it is imperative to change. This isn't about comfort. It's about preventing life-altering consequences. Try transitioning to your left side, with your head gently elevated and your arms resting forward or alongside your body, never underneath. Use a contoured pillow to maintain neck alignment and minimize pressure on key vessels. This seemingly small change can profoundly protect your independence, your memory, your ability to hug your family, walk your dog, or utter your grandchild's name. You may not feel the damage as it's being done, but your brain records it, your blood flow registers it, and eventually your body reacts. What you don't know while you sleep can alter everything when you wake up. 6. The alarming whisper of frequent tossing and turning, a red flag for poor sleep quality.